Well, Landmark Park is home to Alabama's official Museum of Agriculture, and we are a 135-acre park and natural and agricultural history museum, living history museum. We have a farm that represents the 1890s in the Wiregrass, and so everything you find there would have been typical of the Wiregrass in the 1890s. We also have, historic buildings throughout the property that you can explore. And then we have a natural history side with boardwalk, nature trails, and information about science and nature.
I've been all around the world, bought everything from diamond to gold. No matter where I go or what I buy, I'm still a country boy in my soul. So take me to the country, nothing but skies and pine. Oh, follow me to the country where we can have a real good time.
It is really like taking a step back in time. You come off the busy highway and you're suddenly on a dirt road in a very wooded area. And the first building you see is the Waddell House, which is a farmhouse that was located in Dothan, that someone lived in for many, many years. Several families throughout history lived in it. And it was moved to this property in the late 70s to preserve it and to be used as an educational tool to show kids and families how we used to live. So you're immediately transported into a different time when you come through that gate. This is the Waddell House. It used to sit at the intersection of Ross Clark Circle and Main Street in Dothan, Alabama. So it was sort of diagonally across from Krispy Kreme. If you're familiar with the Dothan area, try to imagine all of that as farmland. It's hard to imagine. And then on the other side is our kitchen garden and other crops that are planted that would be used. We use them for our educational purposes, but that's what they would have eaten back then. And then outside the tree line is our town square area. And those are different buildings like the church, the stores, the one-room schoolhouse, different buildings that have been moved to the property from surrounding areas.
We are passing away. We are passing away. We are passing away to that great judgment day.
And the building you see here is our Headland Presbyterian Church. And this church was located in Headland in the early 1900s. And when the membership started to decline and it closed down, it was moved to the park in the early 80s to preserve it. And so we use the church for things like Sacred Harp sing. We've had people get married in the church. We've had various church services in the church. And so it's just here to give people a little taste of what life was like back then.
We are passing away to that great judgment day.
It's called shape note singing because the notes, it's supposed to be easier to read because they're different shapes. So if you don't know how to read music, it was a way to teach people how to sing. Usually sacred hymns. It's not really a religious tradition, but they usually are hymn type songs that you sing. And people split into 4-part harmony, and they sit in a square, and someone conducts the songs like this, and everybody sings their part, and they follow along, following the shape notes.
We are passing away to that great judgment day.
This is more of our town square here at Landmark Park. So the first building you see is a one-room schoolhouse, and it was a schoolhouse that was used, late 1800s, early 1900s, one room. All the different grades would have all been in there together. And we do a program here at Landmark Park where field trip kids can come out and actually experience what a school day would have been like back then. So that's a lot of fun. That is open where you can go in and look around, see the desks and the blackboards and the, how it was done back then. It's different than what we're used to. The red building here is our Shelley General Store. And that building is open on special events as well, and we sell bottled drinks and souvenirs out of it. Again, was a functional general store and was moved to the property to preserve it. And then the yellow building at the end is probably everybody's favorite. That's the Martin Drug Store. And that one's a little bit different from these because the building was actually built here at the park, but all the contents were moved from a drugstore that existed in Enterprise. And so a lot of people come in and they remember coming to the soda fountain, and you know, they can reminisce about childhood and high school. And then we have ice cream and drinks and things that are served in there with the original soda fountain that was moved from the drugstore. So we're about to go to the Wiregrass Farmstead here at Landmark Park. And when we go through this tree line, everything on the farm is representative of the 1890s in the Wiregrass area. So the buildings, the crops, and the animals are all what you would have seen in on a farm in the Wiregrass in the 1890s. And that's a really old anvil. And like I say, everything in here would have been typical of the 1890s. Blacksmithing has probably changed quite a bit over the years, but when we have blacksmiths in this shop, we try to keep it as authentic as possible. And blacksmithing would have been an important function on the farm in the 1890s. It's how they made nails, it's how they made tools. So it's a good thing to preserve and explain. And we recently have had a blacksmith filming some video out here, some how-tos and things, so you can find that on our website. The house is the Waddell House. It was the first building moved here in the late 70s. It used to be right on the circle in Dothan, Alabama, which is hard to imagine now that all used to be farmland. And it was set to be torn down, and rather than tear it down, it was moved to the property here, and that's how Landmark Park kind of got started. And we use it for field trips and special events. We can cook on the wood stove. There's working fireplaces in there. So it's a really great way to just immerse yourself in history. And during special events, we have demonstrators that are in costume that do things like sew and quilt and cook and prepare foods on the wood stove. So it's just another really great way to learn about our history. Behind the house is the farm animals. That one's a donkey, and we've got a pig. They're really good friends. They talk to each other all day like that. Jasper! Look at Grump. He's like, what? What? Jasper! This is Jasper. He is our donkey here at Landmark Park. He's a Nubian donkey, and the legend goes that this was the donkey that Jesus rode on in Jerusalem, because he's got a little markings of a cross down his back. And we call him Jasper, and he is a very friendly face here at Landmark Park. He's always coming up to the fence wanting to get a treat or something. And we do ask that you not feed the animals, because sometimes they eat things that are not good for them, but he's a good boy.
Oh my goodness. And we also have a pig here.
We do. Our pig here, this is Grump. You can hear, his name is Grump. And Grump is a red wattle hog. And as you can see, he's kind of reddish in color, and he has two little skin flaps at the bottom of his head, and those are the wattles. They serve no purpose, but that's why they're called a red wattle hog. And Grump is typical of the breed that would have been found in the Wiregrass in the 1890s. They're a very hardy breed. They're well adapted to the heat. They forage. They'll eat pretty much anything they find. And so Grump is our resident red wattle hog.
He's gorgeous.
He is. He's a sweet boy too. So back here behind Jasper, we have our one-room Watson cabin. And there was a family of, I think it was like 14 or 15 people all lived in this cabin at one time in one room. So that's very interesting to see. You know, you've got the one-room cabin that probably would have been pretty typical of a poor family, and then up here we've got the larger home for like a larger landowner. So we kind of try to show different economic situations, just a different experience of our ancestors.
And that style cabin really goes far back.
It does. It does. This cabin, I believe it was built in the 1860s, I think is what it was. And it would have been typical of our time frame here on the Wiregrass Farmstead. Most of the buildings here have the wood shingles. A few of them do have metal roofs, but the wood shingles would have been very typical of the time period.
Does it take a lot of upkeep?
It does take some upkeep because we want to make sure we're preserving everything as best we can. The hardest part to me is making sure that we're in keeping with the time period. So the temptation to use, say, screws when that's not what would have been used back then, you have to try to keep it as authentic as possible. We are looking at some of the other buildings here on the farm, and the one that the kids always want to see is the outhouse. This outhouse is functional. People do use it. We clean it and take care of it, and so it is a functional outhouse. But back in the 1890s, you know, you wouldn't have had a bathroom in your home. You would have gone outside to use the outhouse. Or used a chamber pot under your bed. So that's always something that kids get a big kick out of. So this is our outhouse. Let me look in it and make sure it's not, sounds like there's a squirrel or something in there. So inside maybe not quite as historically authentic, but it is, as you can see, functioning outhouse. So
Can you close the door?
yeah. We do grind sugar cane to make cane syrup. We grow sugar cane here. So we harvest it and strip it and cap it, bring it over here. A mule is hooked up to this long pole here and goes around in a circle, and you feed the cane through the grinder. And so you get cane juice that way. And then you take the juice over to the kettle, cook it down, and it becomes syrup. And we sell the syrup at the event, so you get to see it from start to finish. It's a very interesting process. We do that at our fall farm day, and we plant a lot of things at spring farm day. So if you come to both, you can really get a good feel for what happens throughout the year on a farm. The corn crib, you can see the shellers there. So we can, feed corn through the shellers, and it comes off. We use it for to grind. You can make grits from it. You can make animal feed from it. So we use that there, and we do grow corn here. So again, you see it from kind of the ground to the finished product.
Any moonshine?
Funny you should ask. We have made moonshine out here before. We had special permission, and we were able to make mash and feed it through the still. Of course, it all had to be destroyed. No samples were given, but we did get to see the process of making moonshine, and we felt that was important, that even parts of our history that maybe are not so great, we do want to show what was going on back then. So even if history makes you uncomfortable, it's important to study it. It is. And with moonshine, I mean, that's how a lot of people fed their families. So for better or worse, they were doing the best they could. So this is the barn where we store our feed for the animals. You can see there's old tools here on display, and the door up top is our hay loft. And so that's where we would store our hay. The animals eat a lot of hay, especially during the winter. And you can just climb up a ladder and throw it down from the loft. It's a really nice place. Fun place, you can learn, but it's also just relaxing and really, really beautiful and scenic. Our Interpretive Center is on the other side of the tree line as well, at the edge of the woods. And so that's where you can visit the gift shop. We have a planetarium. It's a dome-shaped theater where we can project the stars and constellations onto the dome above your head, and an instructor can show you how to find that stuff in the night sky in your own backyard. We also show full dome movies, kind of like IMAX movies in there about space and stars and constellations. We have different exhibits in there. Sometimes we'll have Johnny Mac Brown. We have different exhibits back there.
Hit him up. You see about the kid, Nevada. I'll keep them covered.
So Landmark Park owns the largest collection of Johnny Mac Brown memorabilia reportedly in the world. Johnny Mac Brown was a Western film star in the 20s and 30s, and he was from Dothan. And we do bring that out occasionally. We rotate exhibits in our Interpretive Center, but we do show some of his costumes and photos and information about Johnny Mac Brown. The Interpretive Center sits there at the edge of the woods, and so into the woods we have an elevated boardwalk that goes over a creek where you can see different animals and plants. It is handicap accessible, it's elevated, so it's good if you have strollers or wheelchairs or something, you can still enjoy the nature off the boardwalk. And then we have the nature trail, which is a longer path, and it's on a dirt path. So you can see all kinds of stuff. We've seen otters, we've seen beavers, we've seen turtles. Throughout the year, different plants are blooming at different times, and so that's fun to get to go out there and see what's blooming. And so that sort of celebrates our natural history. This side of the tree line celebrates our agricultural history. We have gift shop, and we have, of course, the drugstore and the country store. So a lot of souvenir opportunities, and people love Dale Cox's books and some of the other field guides that we have. We have little toys and candies, old-fashioned things. So if you're looking for a unique gift, a membership is a great thing to give as a gift, but we also have some shopping opportunities here. So we're open 7 days a week. Admission is $4 for adults and $3 for kids. Or we encourage you, if you enjoy the park and would like to support our work and also enjoy free admission for a full year, you can become a park member. And memberships for a family are $60 for an entire year. That covers 2 adults plus all children and grandchildren under age 18. That gets you into the park for free, gets you into the special events for free. You get a subscription to our newsletter, and it's just a great way to support what we're doing here at Landmark Park. So there's other levels available as well, but the most popular is probably that family membership, $60 a year. You can save a lot of money and come out and see us every single day.
You know you hear the wind when it call your name. Wake up out your sleep hearing that southbound train. Say, take me back to the country. Nothing but pines and sky. Oh, follow me to the country. We can have a real good time.